Shalom, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Journey Through Torah. This week, we are in Parsha Emor. Say, we're speaking to someone. Well, Yahweh's always speaking to someone through the Torah, right? But what specifically is happening here? Well, let's understand that now we are still, once again, continuing on the journey of clean, unclean, and holy and common. Like we've been saying, this is a common theme throughout Vayikra. So, you as a people are called to be holy, and you are to be aware of how you live your life. Even more so when you had to deal with the holy things. Remember, if we're out living our lives, just normal people in the camp doing day-to-day things, we can come in contact with unclean things all the time. But as the Levites and the Kohanim, they had to be more keenly aware of all of this because they did have to go to the tabernacle and they did handle the holy things. They did take the offerings and put them on the altar. They did do the incense. Remember the Aaron, the high priest, he had to go in and burn the incense, and he had to clean the menorah, and every Shabbat they replaced the bread. I mean, all of these things had to be done. Well, so they had to be aware of their lives in these things, even more so than just the common person living among the community of Israel. So this, again, we're showing responsibility for those who have a call to the greater things on their lives. It's kind of like this, Yeshua says, to whom much is given, much is required. We are all to live set apart lives, but it becomes more of a responsibility the closer you get to the holy things. This Yahweh says, he spoke to Aaron, and he said, to those nearest me, I will be consecrated. In other words, when people look at you as a servant of Yahweh, people look at you, you are a child of God, and they will make decisions for their life about the God that you serve based on your life. And so like I said, that's wrong, but that's what people do, right? So consider that. How much more would that apply to the priests? If the priests are lax in their standards of walking in righteousness and holiness and purity, then the people are going to think it's insignificant and not worry about it at all. See, so it was important that the priests and the Levites teach the people of Israel the things regarding what is holy, regarding the things of which is clean, regarding the things of which are common, to teach them so that they would know this and understand this. So as they approached and worship, they can see what Yahweh has done in their life, so they can see how he has benefited them and what he has called them to as a kingdom people. Okay. Well, let's get in. Let's start a few things here. Let's go to Leviticus 21:1, and it says, Yahweh said to Moshe, speak to the priests, the sons of Aaron, and say to them, no one is to make himself unclean for the dead among his people. So again, we're looking at Vayomer Yahweh el Moshe Emor. Using this again here. Vayomer is the word Emor, but it's and he said, and spoke Yahweh to Moshe, saying, okay, speak to the priests, the sons of Aaron. This is what we're looking at. So, Vayomer is Emor. We're saying speak. We're saying say. And how does all this relate to what's going on here? Well, let's look at the importance of say and speak. The very first time Emor, say, is used in the scripture, it's back in Genesis 1:3-4. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. In the Hebrew, Vayomer, it's the same thing. Vayomer, it's the word Emor. Vayomer Elohim Yahi Or, Vayehi Or. I like how it reads that. Vayomer, and said Elohim, light exist, light be, and light be. It's pretty cool how it reads it. It reads it in the Hebrew, but that's exactly what happened. And said Yahweh, light be. And there it was. And light existed. See, and so it's much like we were talking about last week. When he says you are a holy people, he says be holy. It's very similar to that, because Yahweh is not saying, okay, once you get holy enough, then you can approach me. No, he's saying be holy. Much like he said, light be. He's saying be holy. He is telling you, you are now holy. And that affects how we live our life here. Okay. So Yahweh is speaking to his people. And here he's addressing the Kohanim, and one of the job with the Kohanim and the Levites was to teach the people of Israel what Yahweh was teaching them. Okay, it's not like Yahweh was teaching the priests and the Levites this hidden secret knowledge that they couldn't tell anybody else. It's a secret. Can't. No, that's not it at all. Because when the word of Yahweh was given and the standards were shown and it was all there and everybody knew what those were, these aren't things that are done in secret. These are things that everyone was to know what it was to be and how to serve Yahweh and the importance of these things. In other words, Yahweh is calling all of his people to make distinctions and discern between the light and dark, to discern between life and death, and to discern between clean and unclean and holy and common. These are the things that we are to discern as children of Yahweh, as people in covenant, and how we live our lives, and the choices that we make are based on how we view these things. Leviticus 10, verses 10 and 11, again, Yahweh speaking to Aaron here, you are to distinguish between the holy and the common, and between the unclean and the clean. And you are to teach the people of Israel all the statutes that Yahweh has spoken to them by Moshe. Again, the job was to know these things and to teach it to the people. Ezekiel 22:26 says that the priests have done violence to my law and have profaned the holy things. Why? It says that the priests have done violence to the Torah, violence to it, not just, oh, they've just ignored it. No, violence to the Torah and profaned that which was holy. Why? Because they did not make these distinctions. They did not make these distinctions and teach it to the people. Let's read it. They have made no distinction between the holy and the common, neither have they taught the difference between the unclean and the clean, and they have disregarded my Sabbaths, so that I am profaned among them. Again, if we don't know what the word of Yahweh says, we're not going to walk in it. And if we're not walking in it, we're not upholding it, obviously, which means we're profaning it. So again, it's important that we know what the word says and that we learn how to walk in it. Okay? So back to Leviticus 21:1. Yahweh said to Moshe, Emor, speak to the priests. So who's being addressed? This is to the priesthood. And he says there is to be none defiled for the dead among his people. Even in death, they were not, remember, touching a dead body would render someone unclean, right? So even if someone had died, whereas in many different religions, someone's dying, call the priest, right? Well, here, the priest could not defile himself with the dead body. Again, he was given to serve in the sanctuary, and he could be called there at any time, so he could not put himself in a state of ritual uncleanness. He had to be separate. He had to live his life this way, and he was not to defile himself for the dead among his people. Okay, it's not that he didn't care. It's just that he had to be in that place of the tabernacle really at any given point in time. And when Yahweh called, he couldn't say, hold on, I can't see you till tomorrow. Okay. The degree of his service was so important that he had to make himself this way. Now, understand this has another meaning as well, that he is not to be defiled for the dead among his people. The word that's used there, it's not really death. It's nephesh, soul. Normally it's met that's used in here, but the word used here is nephesh. He is not to be defiled for the soul among his people. So we could translate this as soulish. That is any appetite, breath, creature, or even someone who's discontented or lust or anything like this. So we could translate this as you shall not be defiled by those who are soulish or worldly. Don't hang out with the world or those who act like the world, as well as physically dead, physical death. There were high standards on those who were to be holy and represent the people of Yahweh. There were high standards that were given there. Leviticus 21:6 says, they shall be holy to their God and not profane the name of their God, for they offer Yahweh's food offerings, the bread of their God. Therefore, they shall be holy. It's not that Yahweh's eating, but because they served at the altar, they had to be holy. And they had to be aware of that. And they could not come before the altar unclean, right? We've talked about this before throughout this book. So they had to stay in this situation where they put themselves in this. Again, we're addressing issues of holiness. The Kohen Gadol was to be diligently aware of his life, his heart, the intent of his heart, and his surroundings outside of him, so that he would remain in a state of ritual purity. He was to be aware of not just physical contamination, but spiritual as well. He is not to defile himself so as to render himself unfit to do his sacred duty. The exception was the para adumah. The exception to this was the red heifer, which we read in Numbers 19, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but that's off the top of my head. So in the ashes of the red heifer, every person that was involved in producing and making the ashes of the red heifer became unclean. But the paradox is that if someone had become unclean, it was the sprinkling from the ashes of the red heifer with the water. It was the sprinkling that was involved in the ceremony to declare them clean, to purify them. So even though the Kohen was to remain in a state of ritually clean, he was not to hesitate at all in contaminating himself when it was needed for the help of his fellow man to regain his state of purity with the ashes of the red heifer. That's kind of an amazing thing, guys, because then we can go into issues of the ashes of the red heifer, or pictures of Yeshua as well, that he became unclean so that we could be clean. He took on our uncleanness and bore these things to deal with these things so that we could be clean before him. It's an amazing thing. And again, it's a matter of how we live our life, not just in the sanctuary, but how we live our life day to day outside of the sanctuary as well. See, this is addressed here too, because it's not just like, so the priest is to be holy only while he's serving his term in the sanctuary. No, he is to be holy, even when he's at home, even when he's at the market, even when he's wherever, he is to be set apart and consecrated and holy. We read this, Kedoshim Yehiyu leElohim. Literally, it's Kedoshim. He is to be holy and to Elohim, his God, to Elohim, your God. Now, interesting, because in this phrase, Samson Raphael Hirsch has some interesting commentary regarding it. He states this: not only inside the temple, but outside it too, are they to be holy to the God to whom they have to teach the people, and not desecrate his name, which they bear and which they represent. They have to bring near to God in the sanctuary of his Torah. That is why they themselves have to be a sanctuary wherever they are. By their way of living, they are to impress the teaching and aims of the sanctuary, for it is only by the life lived outside of the temple that their symbolic procedures inside the temple have meaning. Do you understand what's being said there? He's saying that we have to live our lives outside the sanctuary, outside of the temple, as a holy people, because then it's what happens inside the temple that has meaning to us. That means we live as a holy people outside, and we represent Yahweh to the people in the day-to-day life, the mundane, just the common things, just life. Because in these things, we're seeing Yahweh and his goodness and his kindness and his holiness. And in this way, we're drawing people to his sanctuary. We're drawing people to him because you are a sanctuary for his presence out there. And when you come together and gather in at the sanctuary, then we're gathering together and his presence is there with us all, right? So again, it's just a matter of you carry the presence of Yahweh with you. It's not just something that you are aware of for different parts and different things. No, you carry the presence of Yahweh with you, and you live as a holy people no matter where you are. Even more so for the priesthood. Okay. Now, one of the roles of the priest was to be a facilitator. What does it mean to be a facilitator? He was to help show the way of life and worship. And that's why it was important that he be seen outside of the sanctuary, because he was important to show the way of life and worship. Not just how do we do the worship service and the liturgy and these things, but how do we live day to day in our normal everyday lives? So the priesthood were to show the way. This is how you live your life of worship to Yahweh. He was not to stand in the place of relationship for Israel. He's not to say, oh, so we're going to do this and the priest will take care of it, so I don't have to worry about it. See, he's not taking the place of your relationship, but he's showing you how to live in relationship in the sanctuary and outside of the sanctuary. Psalm 86:11 says, teach me your way, O Yahweh, that I might walk in your truth. Unite my heart to fear your name. John 14:6 says, Yeshua said, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Again, your life teaches the way. Okay. When you represent a king and a kingdom, you need to be aware that you don't live for yourself. When you repent, you don't live for yourself anymore. It says you used to be a slave to sin, but now that we've repented, we are now servants of righteousness. We serve Yahweh now. We don't serve our old desires, the old lustful natures, the old things. We serve Yahweh. Old things have passed away. All things are new. We don't live for ourselves. We live for the kingdom of Yahweh, and may his name be glorified and honored in our midst. That changes our life. Okay. Leviticus 11:44 and 45 says, for I am Yahweh your God. Consecrate yourselves therefore and be holy, for I am holy. You shall not defile yourselves with any swarming thing that crawls on the ground, for I am Yahweh who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. You shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. Leviticus 19:1 and 2. Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the congregation of people of Israel, say to them, you shall be holy, for I, Yahweh your God, am holy. Leviticus 20:7 and 8 says, consecrate yourselves therefore and be holy, for I am Yahweh your God. Keep my statutes and do them. I am Yahweh who sanctifies you. And in Leviticus 21:6, it says, they shall be holy to their God and not profane the name of their God, for they offer Yahweh's food offerings, the bread of their God. Therefore, they shall be holy. All amazing things, right? Okay. Also, in the 2 Corinthians 6:16 to 18, which, by the way, is quoting from Isaiah 52:11, he says, what agreement does God's temple have with idols? Right? You're not going to bring an idol into the tabernacle or into the temple, right? So with that in mind, keep reading. We are the temple of the living God. Just as God has said, I will dwell in them and walk among them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Therefore, come out from among them and be separate, says Adonai. Touch no unclean thing, then I will take you in. And I will be a father to you, and you shall be my sons and daughters, says Adonai Tzavaot. Again, if you are a temple for Yahweh, if his presence does live in you, then be sure you're not bringing idols to the temple, right? Okay, so it's important to note, as a holy people, we're to live as a holy people. Okay, as a people that are set apart and sanctified and redeemed, live that way. You're born again, live like it, right? That's changing how we do things. This was relevant for the people of Israel. This is relevant today, and this will be relevant in the future. All right. Revelation 21:27 says, nothing unclean will ever enter it. Speaking of the New Jerusalem, nor anyone who does what is detestable or false, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. Again, if we are a holy people, and to be a holy people, there only holy things will be in the New Jerusalem. No unclean will enter in, no defilement. And so live as a holy people. 1 Thessalonians 4:7 says, for God did not call us to live an unclean life, but a holy one. Yahweh has set you apart. live that way. And he will equip you to do so. If we surrender to him, it makes it easier instead of fighting it, right? Yahweh, I live for you, but that means I have to die to myself. Yes, it does. Okay. And that's that part of surrender that we need to consider. Peter puts it this way, 1 Peter 1:16-22, it is written, Kedoshim you shall be, for I am Kadosh. If you call on him as Father, the one who judges impartially according to each one's deeds, then live out the time of sojourning in reverent fear. You know that you were redeemed from the futile way of life handed down from your ancestors, not with perishable things such as silver or gold, but with the precious blood like that of a lamb without defect or spot, the blood of Messiah. He was chosen before the foundation of the world, but was revealed in these last times for your sake. Through him, you are believers in God, who raised him from the dead and gave him glory, so that your trust and hope are in God. Now that you have purified your souls in obedience to the truth, leading to sincere brotherly love, love one another fervently from a pure heart. See that? It changes your conduct, changes the way you perceive things. Zechariah 13:1 speaks of that. Yet in that day a spring will be opened to the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to cleanse them from sin and impurity. He cleanses you from your sin and impurity. So we don't have to live that way anymore. He has forgiven you. He has washed you clean. Now we live different. It's kind of like the idea of a baptism, a mikvah. The old things washed away, coming into resurrection of new life and new things. That's why the idea of clean hands. You know, speak of clean hands. It's not a matter of just the work of my hands, the things they do, may they be good, absolutely. But we're blameless before Yahweh. That's what it means to have clean hands. It's not that just, oh, no, there's dirt, wash them. It's a type of a mikvah to where when we're observing, when we're looking at our hands, the works of our hands, the things that we do, and we wash them before Yahweh. May the works of my hands be righteous to you, Yahweh. May the things that I do honor you in everything. Psalm 24:3-5 says, may we go up, or who may go up to the mountain of Adonai, and who may stand in his holy place? One with clean hands and a pure heart, who has not lifted his soul in vain nor sworn deceitfully. He will receive a blessing from Adonai, righteousness from the God of his salvation. Ephesians 1:3-8 says, praise be Adonai, the Father of our Lord Yeshua the Messiah, who in the Messiah has blessed us with every spiritual blessing in heaven. In the Messiah, he chose us in love before the creation of the universe to be holy and without defect in his presence. He determined in advance that through Yeshua the Messiah, we would be his sons in keeping with his pleasure and purpose. Verse 6. To be his sons keeping with his pleasure and purpose, verse 6, so that we would bring him praise commensurate with the glory of the grace he gave us through the beloved one. In union with him, through the shedding of his blood, we are set free. Our sins are forgiven. This accords with the wealth of the grace he has lavished on us in all his wisdom and insight. He sets us free. He redeems us so we live our lives set apart to him. In Yeshua, he cleanses you. He sets you apart, makes you holy. He became unclean so you could be clean. He took this on. He took your sin, your blame, your shame. He took that so you can be clean. And we see this in many different things. One, the process of cleansing put uncleanness on those involved in the process. Like Yom Kippur, right? In the process of making atonement for the people, there was uncleanness that was declared to the goat that goes away. Yom Kippur was a process of providing atonement. Not just talking about forgiveness of sin here. We're talking about atonement. And if you don't know the difference, then go back to Acharimot Parsha, and we talk about the differences between atonement and forgiveness and how both are needed. Okay? So Yom Kippur is the process of forgiving, making atonement so that you can come into the presence of the most holy God. And the red heifer, we talk about that, where we see someone who had become unclean they needed to go through the process of being declared clean. So the ashes of the red heifer, everyone involved in the process became unclean so that you could be made clean. And so they would mix the ashes of the red heifer with the water. They would sprinkle on the person who was to be made clean, and then make the declarations for them, make the appropriate offerings. Then they were declared clean. And so that shows us something. It's another picture of Yeshua. In the process of making us clean, he became unclean. And in Isaiah 53 as well, he bore our uncleanness, our sin, our shame, our guilt, so that we could be clean, free, guiltless, blameless before him. What do we see some other things here? Leviticus 16:20. And when he made an end of the atoning for the holy place and the tent of meeting at the altar, he shall present the live goat. And Aaron shall lay both his hands on the head of the live goat and confess over it all the iniquities of the people of Israel and all their transgressions, all their sins. And he shall put them on the head of the goat and send it away into the wilderness by the hand of a man who is in readiness. And the goat shall bear all their iniquities on itself to the remote area, and he shall let the goat go free in the wilderness. Isaiah 53. Again, that was part of the Yom Kippur service. In Isaiah 53, verses 3-5, it says, he was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And as one from whom men would hide their faces, he was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace, and with his stripes we are healed. 2 Corinthians 7:1. Therefore, since we have these promises, loved ones, let us cleanse ourselves from all defilement of body and spirit, perfecting holiness in the fear of God. These are the things Yahweh has called us to. We've been talking throughout this book about be holy because Yahweh is holy. He is holy. He is our Elohim. Therefore, you be holy. And because of that, it changes our life, the way we do things, the way we see things, how we walk. Our daily habits even become different. You know, we're reading the Bible. We're praying. We're finding ways and things in life around us where maybe a sense of injustice, looking around saying, well, that's not right. But we go beyond that. It's not just a matter of, well, that's not right, and then we walk away. Well, that's not right. What can I do about it? See, that changes things. And these are the things that Yahweh has called us to. That's how you're holy. Be holy. What does that mean? That means you show the heart of the Father in your life, not just at the sanctuary, but even in your day-to-day life. Live for him, not just an hour out of the week. Live for him every day. He is holy. You are holy. So be holy in everything that you do, in all your life, in your conduct, and honor Yahweh in the midst of it all. Why? So that people will see your life and glorify your Father in heaven. Help make disciples. How do we do that? By letting our life be the example, by letting people see Yahweh in our life. And they're going to want that. The world is dark. Let your light shine, right? Okay. Well, that's all I've got for you this week, guys. I pray that this has been a blessing to you, and challenged you a little bit even, encouraged you as well. And if this has been a blessing, then share it. Guys, whatever avenue you watch or you listen, help us to get them out there. If it's been a blessing to you, it's going to be a blessing to somebody else too. So if it has blessed you, share it. Okay. Help get it out there. And if this has been something you enjoy to tune in from time to time and watch the videos and you share them, please consider making a donation to help us keep these moving along, to help us keep creating these, help putting them out there. It's only because you guys help make that happen. Okay. So please continue to help make that happen. All right. So if this has been a blessing to you, then please consider making a donation as well to help us continue to do that. So until next time, guys, be blessed, be a blessing, and shalom.